This video is brought to you by Brilliant. Today, Bolivia thwarts an attempted military coup. Kenya's president backs down in the face of protests, and North Korea tests its new military technology. From TLDR News, this is your daily briefing for Thursday, the 27th of June, 2024. Bolivia was plunged into crisis on Wednesday when the military launched an attempted coup to remove leftist President Luis Arce from power. Military units led by Army Chief General Juan José Zuniga gathered in the centre of La Paz and marched on the presidential palace, with footage even showing an armoured vehicle ramming the doors of the palace in an attempt to gain entry. General Zuniga claimed that politicians were destroying the country and that the armed forces intend to restore the democracy, to make it a true democracy. But the coup attempt was met with a swift reaction from inside and outside Bolivia. From inside the presidential palace, President Arce broadcast comments denouncing the coup and saying, "We need the Bolivian people to organise and mobilise against the coup d'etat in favour of democracy." Even Arce's political opponents condemned the coup attempt, suggesting that General Zuniga did not have much political support. There was swift international condemnation too from countries including Brazil, Peru, Colombia, Uruguay, Chile and Mexico, as well as the Organisation of American States and the European Union. In one dramatic scene, President Arce even confronted General Zuniga in the hallway of the presidential palace, telling him, "I am your captain and I order you to withdraw your soldiers, and I will not allow this insubordination." Eventually, from inside the presidential palace, Arce swore in a new army chief who ordered the withdrawal of the rebel military units. With this order in mind, plus the mobilisation of Bolivians on the street in opposition to the coup, an announced general strike and the swift international condemnation, the military retreated, Zuniga was arrested, and the coup attempt was thwarted. So, what actually sparked the coup? Well, to understand, we need to go back to the Bolivian political crisis of 2019. Leftist then-President Evo Morales ran for an unconstitutional third term, winning the vote which his opponents said was fraudulent, sparking protests that eventually saw Morales resign and flee the country. The right-wing opposition took control as an interim government, which Morales' party described as a coup. Elections were held in 2020 that saw Morales' ally, Luis Arce, elected president. But in the past few years, the two have fallen out dramatically, and their party is split, with Morales seeking to run again for the presidency in 2025. Prior to the coup attempt, General Zuniga has said that Morales should not be able to return and threatened to prevent him from returning to power if necessary. This prompted President Arce, despite his falling out with Morales, to remove Zuniga from his post, a move that seemed to precipitate his coup attempt. Morales was quick to show support for Arce and condemn the attempted coup. Despite its failure, the coup attempt leaves Bolivia, which is already in the midst of an economic crisis and deep political tensions, in a particularly tense position ahead of next year's elections. There's more on the way, but remember to subscribe and ring the bell for more daily briefing tomorrow. Plus, if you want to support the channel like Philip Baker, then consider joining the new TLDR membership programme for just $1.99. In an update to yesterday's Spotlight story, Kenya's President William Ruto says he will not sign into law the controversial finance bill that sparked significant unrest in the country. Major protests were held in opposition to the bill, and some protesters even stormed the Kenyan parliament earlier this week. At least 22 people have been killed in clashes between protesters and police, according to the Kenya National Human Rights Commission. In response to the unrest, President Ruto said the bill has caused widespread dissatisfaction and that he has listened and conceded. He says that he will withdraw the bill and that it's necessary for us to have a conversation as a nation on how do we manage the affairs of the country together. Nevertheless, protesters have vowed to go ahead with what they call a million people march on Thursday. The bill would have raised taxes on a range of services and items, including things like food staples and bank transfers. It was designed to reduce Kenya's budget deficit in order to access funding from the International Monetary Fund. In other news, North Korea claims to have successfully carried out a test aimed at developing missiles carrying multiple warheads, a technology it says will allow it to overwhelm US and South Korean missile defences. But not everyone is convinced. South Korea says that the North's statement is actually a deception to cover up a failed launch. Rather than it being a successful test of a multi-warhead missile, the South Korean military says it actually appeared to be a test of a hypersonic missile that exploded in mid-air off the east coast of North Korea. Whatever the test actually was, it came just days before South Korea, the United States, and Japan began large-scale joint military drills, dubbed Freedom Edge, and devised last year at a three-way summit in the US, focusing on defense against missiles, submarine, and air attacks. The exercise involved the nuclear-powered US aircraft Theodore Roosevelt, which North Korea has condemned as a very dangerous show of force. While the war in Ukraine doesn't hit headlines in the same way as it used to, the war is still progressing, with Vladimir Putin's troops continuing to strike the embattled nation. Only last night, Russia launched a barrage of bombs and missiles across the border. The most numerous of these were the glide bombs, which are a form of air-dropped munitions that can be launched from a distance and can have a payload of up to 1.5 tons. Last night alone, 96 of these were launched, and according to President Zelensky, more than 2,400 of these have been dropped on Ukraine since the beginning of June. These aren't the only form of munition that Putin's dropping on Ukraine, though. In addition to these glide bombs, Putin also fired around 4,000 shells and 44 kamikaze drones across the border last night. This all comes in the hours and days leading up to the expected signing of a security pact between Ukraine and the EU today. Such a pact would provide Ukraine with weapons, military training, and aid over the coming years. In the final uplifting story today, we discuss some recent findings about a Neanderthal settlement. Following the analysis of a fossil fragment from a Neanderthal settlement in Spain, it was discovered that a child, roughly 6 years old and who had Down syndrome, was part of the community. The remarkable thing about this is that they lived to this age, something that researchers pointed out would require a lot of assistance from others. Discussing this in an article in Science Advances, researchers explained that Neanderthals would take care of each other who were capable and able to return the favour. However, the fact that this individual likely could not return the favour demonstrates that her survival is likely based on the altruism of others in the community. The paper goes on to explain that the child's mother would have struggled to provide care, while also trying to keep up with the challenges of the Paleolithic era.
Looking around the political stage, there's a good number of people who are probably eyeing up new jobs at the moment, so it might be a good time for Rishi & Co to grab a subscription to Brilliant. That's because Brilliant is the platform where you learn by doing, with thousands of interactive lessons in maths, data analysis, programming, and AI, all of which are important skills whether you're currently in the jobs market or just looking to learn new things. As existing users will already know, Brilliant is a uniquely effective learning platform. Their first principles approach helps you build understanding from the ground up. Each lesson is filled with hands-on problem solving that lets you play with concepts, a method proven to be 6 times more effective than watching lecture videos. Plus, if you are looking for a new job, say you're eyeing up a move to California to get into tech, Brilliant's growing number of programming courses are a great way to build foundations and learn real-world applications. Their courses help you learn essential coding elements, from loops and variables to nesting and conditionals, as well as developing your mind to think like a programmer, building a strong foundation in writing robust programs. To try everything Brilliant has to offer for free for a full 30 days, click on the link in the description. Plus, when you do subscribe, you'll also get 20% off an annual premium subscription.